Yep.
Throughout the history of humanity, every endeavor has been aimed at answering one eternal question. Who is throughout the history of humanity, every endeavor has been aimed at answering one eternal question. Who is the best in the world? Every sport, every art, every race, every fight are the attempts to answer this very question. Since time immemorial, competition has always been about finding the best, pushing the limits and boundaries. Every individual, every team, and every nation attempted to embody that answer. From March 8th to March 12th, 2022, for the first time in the history of amateur mixed martial arts, KHK Sports introduces the first ever MMA Super Cup. Will collide inside the arena of Khalifa Sports 8 nations, top in the ranking of the International Mixed Martial Arts Federation, will collide inside the arena of Khalifa Sports City in the Kingdom of Bahrain to find out the best amateur MMA team in the world, to honor the best country in the fastest growing sport, mixed martial arts, of the non-stop sportainment in Asia. Get your tickets at lanasatime.com. The official ticketing Be part of the non-stop sportainment in Asia.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the official draw for the MMA Super Cup, the largest amateur mixed martial arts event with the biggest prize money in history. First of all, I would like to thank His Highness Sheikh Khalid bin Hamad Al Khalifa, whose vision has led the sports to new heights all around the globe, changing the MMA industry from an events business to a sports business. And today, the MMA Super Cup is a big leap forward to achieving that vision. Also, I would like to thank the International Mixed Martial Arts Federation, President Gareth Brown, for leading the way in amateur mixed martial arts, paving the road for a new generation of athletes. A special thank you to the CEO of KHK Sports and President of Brave Combat Federation, Mohammed Shahid, for providing the necessary pathways for the birth of the MMA Super Cup. And finally, a thank you to our host, the Bahrain Mixed Martial Arts Federation and President Mohammed Qambar, for their relentless drive in putting the Kingdom of Bahrain as the epicenter of MMA worldwide. The MMA Super Cup will be an integral part of the largest combat sports festival in Asia, the Brave International Combat Week, which will be held from 8th March till the 12th of March at Khalifa Sports City. For the 2022 edition, Brave International Combat Week will also count as Brave CF57, as well as the first ever edition of the MMA Super Cup. History. Okay guys, let's get straight to the draw. As per the official announcement of the MMA Super Cup on 10th January, the top 4 teams in the world ranking have already been seeded, and they are RMMAU, Ukraine, Republic of Kazakhstan, and the Kingdom of Bahrain. These teams have been selected before the World Championship through the IMMAF rankings. So, moving forward to our draw, this is how our official fixture will look like for each top 4 teams. They will be seeded to match with 1, 2, 3, or 4 as per their official rankings. The other 4 teams which are not seeded that will compete against the other top 4 teams are as follows: the Republic of Ireland, the Republic of Tajikistan, Arab champions, or the Balkan champions. And to help us with the official draw for the first 2 matches, I would like to invite a sports icon from the Kingdom of Bahrain, winner of 2009 Asian champion, 2009 men's world champion, 2014 body pro champion, and the legend of Bahrain, Mr. Sami Haddad. Mr. Sami, it's so very nice to see you here today. We are so excited to have you. Let's start with the first seed, which is the RMMAU. Are you excited?
I'm very excited. Thank you for having me here.
Pleasure to have you, as usual. Just to give you an idea about the team, this is one of the toughest teams in the tournament. If there were odds for this tournament, then this team is highly anticipated to get into the finals. The RMMAU won almost all divisions in Junior World Championships, showcasing the power of the stars of tomorrow. Aside from that, the RMMAU also earned tremendous results in the Senior World Championship. The overall results have maintained that the RMMAU at the #1 spot of IMMAF rankings, with a total medal count of 144 since 2019. Very impressive. 52 gold, 36 silver, and 56 bronze medals. So, who do they get?
I'll reconsider it. I'll mix it again.
Such a tough opponent.
Yes, after what I heard now, I need to reconsider. What we have here,
Drum roll.
Ireland.
Wow. Ireland and the RMMAU. That is an interesting matchup. Do you know the significance of this matchup?
Definitely, it's pretty high.
It's a very big feud in the MMA history. All the MMA fans out there should have a great idea on the significance of this match here today. What an awesome matchup.
It looks like, because I can see some reaction in the room, that I shouldn't have reconsidered the ball.
You don't know, maybe you already had that picked in the beginning.
Yes.
Awesome. Now, on to the next matchup. The #2 seeded team will be Ukraine.
All right.
Ukraine team qualified for the MMA Super Cup as the #2 nation in the world ranking prior to the World Championships. It did so by applying a very interesting strategy in the IMMAF tournaments. As per the regulations of the draw, the automatic matchup for our second seed will be, if you could do the honors.
Let's see. We have got Arab champions.
Arab champions. Wow, let's go Arab champions. It's going to be awesome. I'm sure we are all deeply rooting for them.
Can't wait for that.
It's going to be amazing matchups. Both teams, all 4 teams should have a great match. So Mr. Sami, I am a really big fan of yours. So let me ask you, who is your favorite athletes?
In the MMA?
Your favorite athletes?
Athletes, definitely I have one leader only in the sport, which is His Highness Sheikh Khalid bin Hamad Al Khalifa.
Our pride and joy.
Always look up to him.
Of course. Our pride and joy, our Sheikh, yani.
Yes.
But in mixed martial arts specifically, who do you see as your favorite athlete?
I watched him, so close. Hamza Al-Kohiji.
Yes.
He earned every step,
Tenacious.
every punch, every takedown, every victory.
Definitely.
And he made his way up. Literally he earned it. We are not saying some compliments for this athlete.
Yeah.
He made his way up. He earned the title match now. And I can't wait to watch this fight.
Of course, all of Bahrain is always behind you, Hamza, 100% of the way. We're always going to be rooting for you. Well, Mr. Haddad, this was amazing. Thank you so much. We're so glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me here. And actually, it's not for the first time. I'm always going to be supporting MMA.
Always.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All the best.
Athletes for
Thank you.
athletes.
All
Thank
right.
you so much. Now, after all of this excitement, we are to move on to our final two draws. We are excited to welcome the face of MMA and one of the most talented prospects to come out of MMA. With an impressive record, two-time IMMAF World Champion, 29-0, undefeated, undisputed, former Brave CF flyweight, current UFC fighter, Mr. Mohammed Makayev. Welcome, Mr. Makayev. That is some impressive records you have there.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you. Are you ready for the last two draws?
Yes, I'm excited.
Yeah, the first two were amazing, so the second two will end with a bang, I'm sure.
Yes, let's do it.
All right. The two seeded countries are the Republic of Kazakhstan and the Kingdom of Bahrain. So let's start with the first seed, the Republic of Kazakhstan. I'm sure you have a wealth of experience with fighting against Kazakhstan fighters and are familiar with the country. Kazakhstan has several amazing results in the last tournaments, and they have been ranked top 3 for the past 3 years, with a total medal count of 67. I'm sure Kazakhstan is looking to break that record and be placed in the finals. Who would you like to see fight Kazakhstan?
I think if they match up against Tajikistan, maybe it's interesting matchup. You know, it's tough competition. They always bring like good guys every year,
Wow.
and they have like selection in the country. I fought some of the Kazakhstan guys.
Wow.
It's a tough opponents. You know,
From the beginning, it will be a great match.
interesting guys.
Who do you think will be a tougher opponent for them, Tajikistan or the Balkan champions?
I think Tajikistan.
Tajikistan would be the harder opponent. All right. Now, Mr. Mukayev, let's proceed with the draw. If you may, do the honors.
Very good. Balkan champions.
Wow, Balkan champions versus the Republic of Kazakhstan. Should be awesome. All right, some of the finest fighters in combat sports come from the Balkans. We have seen the Balkan countries in the top 8 rankings. Unfortunately, Bulgaria did not make the cup for the top 6 selections, but I'm sure they will get an opportunity to compete as a part of the Balkan team, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Team Balkan will all be looking forward to this fight. All right.
Yep.
Now,
Let's do the next one, yeah?
let's do the next one. Our final draw of the tournament. We have our number 4 seed, the Kingdom of Bahrain. And the Kingdom of Bahrain will compete with our last ball of the draw.
Tajikistan.
Team Bahrain, let's go. Wow, this is going to be a really tough fight, a force to be reckoned with. Team Tajikistan comes into the MMA Super Cup on the back of strong performances as well as the world champions. So it should be a really interesting fight, right?
Yes, that's right. I've been at the World Championships in Abu Dhabi, and I see some Tajikistan bring actually tough opponents. So this is no easy matchup for anybody in the World Cup. So, but I believe Bahrain will go past, and it's good to start.
Yeah.
It's good draw. Yes.
Really good starts for Bahrain, and I'm sure they know that the entire country is behind them to support them.
That's right.
Of course. So, Mr. Makayev, I just wanted to ask you, you are very familiar with Bahrain and have been training with the team for your fight. We have seen you at the last championship motivating the Bahraini national team. What do you think the fight will look like for both teams?
You know, at the moment in the team, very young and hungry guys. We all the guys went to professional now, which I really miss this opportunity. Wish I could come back and do it for the country. You know, like my country, United Kingdom. But for Bahrain at the moment, very young and hungry guys, and I believe they really motivated, right? Yes, I see everybody's eyes behind the stages, so.
Ready to go.
Yes, that's right.
Ready to fight. We're so proud of them, and I'm sure they're going to do amazing. So speaking on that, you wish that you could do this. Representing your country, of course, is always an amazing opportunity. And on top of that, there is the biggest cash prize in history for the development of the sports, for the love of the sports and the development of the sports in your backyard. Do you wish you were fighting in the tournament as an amateur? And what do you think the significance is of the MMA Super Cup?
I think this is amazing for the amateur sport, especially the like a cash prize, and also you don't just do it for yourself. It's for the teammates. You don't just win and be selfish. Go for the final. You have to support your team, and also you can bring this money to develop the sport in your country. For example, like in UK. We used to have to pay for ourselves to go to and compete, but here you compete for free, and also you can get money for the country and develop for the younger generation. So I think it's amazing opportunity. Wish UK compete here also, but like I think it's best countries been picked at the moment.
Matchups so far have been amazing, and the feedback and the energy in the room right now is just teeming with anticipation for what we have seen. Thank you so much, Mr. Mukayev. It's been a great pleasure. I know you miss it, but you can join us live on our global broadcast network and Brave CFTV, of course. All the best for all of your upcoming fights.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much. I wish all the best to all fighters that are going to compete, and thanks to Immaf and Brave for organizing all this.
Yes.
It's amazing opportunity for the younger generation.
Yes, we're so very proud to be hosting this as a country, and of course the organizations have done amazing things for the players worldwide. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, let's look at the final fixtures for the MMA Super Cup quarterfinals to be held from 8th March till the 12th of March. This has been crazy. The RMMAU versus Ireland, Ukraine versus Arab nation, the Republic of Kazakhstan versus the Balkans, and Bahrain versus Tajikistan. And the last two teams of the draw and the #1 ranked team in the Senior World Championships, the Bahrain national team, of course. Well, that is the end to the draw for the first ever MMA Super Cup. But please stay tuned as we will start a panel discussion with our team of experts in 10 minutes. Please tweet your questions to @MMA Super Cup on Twitter, and we will answer them live with our discussion panels. Stay tuned, and thank you for joining us.
My vision is not a secret. I'm a straightforward person. I'm trying to be the best, and our vision is to make MMA in the region very popular.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Kingdom of Bahrain is taking over the MMA world!
The vision of His Highness Sheikh Khalid bin Hamad Al Khalifa has been changing the sport of mixed martial arts since 2016. A new age of combat sports in the Kingdom of Bahrain and in the region started with the birth of Brave International Combat Week.
Today, with the IMMAF World Championship being announced to be in Bahrain, that's one of the biggest steps that we can see in the combat sports history of Bahrain.
In 2017, the partnership between the International MMA Federation and Brave Combat Federation began to shatter records and write a new story for the sport. On November 12, 2017, BICW hosted the first ever IMMAF Amateur World Championship outside of Las Vegas. With more than 250 athletes from 40 nations, it set new records, also bringing in the biggest Brave CF event of the year with 2 inaugural title fights. BICW 2017 cemented itself as the biggest combat sports festival in the region. In 2018, Brave International Combat Week broke its own records, bringing in 300 fighters from 45 countries and the return of Brave CF as the fastest growing MMA organization in the world of MMA. It was, once again, a magical week for combat sports lovers the world over. However, the best was yet to come. In 2019, the biggest BICW to date took place. It featured the return of Brave CF as the largest sports media property in the Middle East with the largest market share in Asia. The organization put on one of the greatest MMA events ever in front of global celebrities, heads of states, and sports leaders, all under one roof to witness the most valuable trophy in sports. During the same week, the IMMAF World Championship set new records that are yet to be broken, with more than 450 athletes from 52 countries. It was the biggest MMA week in all of Asia. This spirit of Brave International Combat Week has placed Bahrain on the martial arts map as the Combat Kingdom. And in 2022, the BICW is back. Bigger, stronger, better. An extraordinary Brave CF Fight Night will see the most legendary fights of the Kingdom's sporting history, with the biggest rivalries set to be resolved inside the Brave Arena. A week filled with passion, excitement, and entertainment like never before. And more, much more. Introducing to the world the beginning of a new revolution in the mixed martial arts industry. March 2022, in partnership with KHK Sports, IMMAF, Brave CF, BMMAF, will set a new course in the amateur MMA history books, the largest amateur MMA tournament in the world, designed to find out the best MMA nation in the world. This is Brave International Combat Week.
welcome back again. Let us move on to the panel of experts regarding the draw that just happened. Introducing Mr. Gareth Brown, President of the IMMAF, CEO of KHK Sports, and the President of Brave Combat Federation, Mr. Mohammed Shahid, and Bahrain MMA Federation President, Mr. Mohammed Qambar. So this looks like a very interesting matchup from the draws. Maybe we could start with you, Mr. Gareth. Your thoughts on the draw?
Good afternoon, and
Good
thank
afternoon.
you for the introduction. Yeah, wow, what can I say? The draw has kind of thrown out, some key matches that we were thinking could happen, might happen, and there you go. Ireland and our MMAU straight off the bat. What, you couldn't pick a better first match to engage with the Mma Super Cup.
If they ask who's the winners and losers, I think the winners are definitely the fans.
Exactly. Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
To be fair, in terms of the draw, I mean it's the first type of event of this nature. I have to thank His Highness Sheikh Khalid bin Hamad Al Khalifa for his vision, along with Mohammed Shahid,
Yes.
in terms of driving this new initiative of Nation v Nation. It's a concept that we've always been looking at,
Yeah.
and we're here. And today was it was great to see the draw in terms of the dynamics and how this will play out in terms of who will be the #1 national federation under the MMA Super Cup under Immaf.
Should
Fantastic
be very exciting. I saw you guys' reactions when I was when we were announcing the names, and all of you just the energy
I mean,
was crazy.
The two matches that you were kind of looking at, Ireland and Tajikistan. I mean, Tajikistan just come off the back of a good world championship with some young, talented athletes that have come through.
Yeah.
Obviously, Bahrain topped the senior list in terms of the medal table, and congratulations
Yeah.
for their ability to compete at that level.
We're very proud of them.
To be fair, they've been a good ambassador in terms of developing the sport
Yeah.
on a global basis. So, but it's only fitting that we now have two fantastic draws at the start of the competition, where you have our MMU against Ireland. That's a great matchup in itself in terms of history. When you look at it in terms of the amateur development, and as I said, Bahrain competing against the young guns, which
Yeah.
is Tajikistan, and they were very vocal. At
Which
the World Championships.
which they showed a very
Passionate.
They were very passionate. They showed a very strong fights in
sure.
the World Championships. They were
For sure.
Yeah.
And
were
we've
very
got the two wild cards, of course, with the Balkans and obviously the Arab
Arab
champions.
nation.
And that's a good dynamics. Kazakhstan will be looking to. I would say they were probably favourites in that matchup. And then if you look at the Balkans,
Yeah.
in terms of where they are, again, just really formulating that in terms of it's a new process. Something we'll look at, we'll review. So the dynamics, I'm pretty sure there's going to be loads of questions in terms of why and how and which and should. But listen, there's a stake in the ground, and I can only thank you for allowing for this to take place, and as a major stakeholder in the event, to really show that the sport of amateur MMA is moving forward. And not only that, there's a prize at the end of it, which will then enable the national federations, the ones that are successful in the top 3, will allow them to kind of reinvest in terms of we're looking at the next generation, which is youth.
yes, correct.
Playing off the comment that you said about the format, which is super interesting, my next question, Mr. Shahid, why is the format of the MMA Cup so different?
I mean, we just saw the beginning and the reaction, right?
Yeah.
I think one of the first thing I would say is, even if I don't speak about the format, one thing that you all saw naturally is the excitement factor. I would
Definitely.
always say that IMMAF, apologize for saying this in front of the president, but I would say that IMMAF just got 2 cubes more sweeter now, so it just got more entertaining, it just got more interesting, and from a perspective of a person that's always been looking at how can we make the people outside of mixed martial art get engaged with mixed martial art. I mean, that's been the goal always. I mean, we as MMA fans, you put up a fight right here and we'll watch it, we'll enjoy it,
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter where the fight is, how extravagant the fight is. We love the fight, we love mixed martial art, we love the technical side of it. But how can we bring the rest of the world understand the sports better and be involved in the sports? And that's by creating entertainment factor to it. And I would, just to get a clear idea on for the people who are watching, who doesn't know mixed martial arts that well and enjoy sports, I would tell them that now it's much more, few points that made this format much more easier for understanding is number one, easy to the eyes. So when we think about football and we say Brazil, you know it's yellow.
Yeah.
You know, when we say Holland, orange. You know, or Italy, blue. You know,
Blue,
so you
yeah.
have these colors in your mind, and when you watch them, you even watch another country from some other place and they're wearing yellow. You're like, is that Brazil? You know,
Definitely.
so it just clicks in your head, and that's one of the easy to the eye factor that we've made in the event, is when we see two athletes compete. Before you always have red and blue, and now you're in any combat sports, but today in the Mma Super Cup you're actually going to see their national team jerseys. I think easy to the eye is number one, but the second part is easy to understand as well.
Okay.
So for us, we know the 10-9 system, we know who's winning the fight when two guys are fighting. 90% of the time I sit with people who don't know MMA and they watch and they're like, who's winning?
What's going on?
Who do you
Yeah,
think
that's
won?
right. Yeah,
You know, and then there's this conversation that you don't want to be a part of.
Yeah.
Or you look
Because-
into the corner
Yeah.
to see
Yeah.
who's playing against who.
Exactly.
Yeah, what's a
And you don't-
technical
you
win?
don't want
What's
to be
a
a part of that
KO?
conversation. You're like, hey, let me watch the fight, you know. But
Yeah,
I'll
but
explain to you later on a lecture on how it's good. But in the end of the day, I think we all face that. But in the end of the day, this is going to be easy to understand because it's nine best athletes from two countries.
Yes.
It's like penalty shootouts.
All right.
You know who won. So all I have to look at is which is the country that's going to get their first 5 wins. So if I score 5 penalties, I win. That's the idea, you know. So we'll have the slots where we know first fight who won. This is fight number 3. The last 2 fights, what is the score? So it's out of 9 fights, what's the score between them? Easy to understand. We just wish that the team that you're rooting for wins 5 fights and you're going through to the next round. So it's easy to understand as well. But I think apart from easy for the eyes and easy to understand, one crucial thing about this format is when we say team versus team and everybody hears it and everybody's like, but it was always team versus team. You know,
Yeah.
World Championships,
what I
Asians,
thought.
Oceanias, it was always team versus team. But what makes this team versus team? The biggest difference is that you could have Mohammed Makayev fighting for UK, the top amateur of the country, win the fight first round by knockout in 20 seconds, but still not qualify to the semi-finals from the quarterfinals because the rest of the team lost.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter how good of an athlete you have, your whole team have to get the result together. So it's no more about one fighter factor, you know, it's always about the team factor. And that makes it actual team versus team.
Yeah.
Rather than it's always, yes, you do carry your country's flag for sure, but most importantly, you carry on, it's always individual structure in mixed martial and combat sports, but this is going to slightly change that. It's going to be about the team. So for me, as a fan of Bahrain or someone else as a fan of Russia, they're going to look at it and they're going to be like, you better have a full squad that's going to make it through, you know, rather than one top fighter that you're going to bring in. So that makes it interesting, definitely
Okay.
more interesting, more team factor. But icing on the cake is always going to be fighting for your flag, and it's going to be much more valuable because this time, if I had the opportunity, or I always, if you ask Makai, we had a discussion on this a day back about Mma Super Cup. I was telling him that if you could, he was always proud to carry his flag all the time in every competition that he used to travel. And I was saying that imagine this time carrying your flag and reaching to the finals and carrying that cup means it's not only about you getting a gold medal, you're actually part of your next generation's development.
Wow.
Because you're going to bring that funding back to the country. You're going to provide a development program and finances for the next generation to develop. So you are part of something bigger, something
Wow.
bigger for your country. So this time when you carry that flag, you're going to have a different feeling. And I think these are the few points, for me, I personally think, that's going to make this format something exceptional, a revolution for mixed martial art. And I call it the new age of mixed martial art. And this is that step towards that.
Sounds fantastic, honestly.
Can I just pick up on it? I mean,
course.
and again, because of the format, it's team and
Yeah.
it's male and female, which makes it more exciting. The fact that as an individual athlete, it's different when you compete for yourself. When you're fighting for a team, the dynamics completely change in terms that you know, you can be the best in the world,
Yeah.
but you know, the fact is that the adrenaline and the fact that you're representing your country changes the dynamics of the fighting. You know, you might have somebody that might have lost in, say, an individual match, but coming into a team can excel.
Yeah.
Because now you're fighting for your team, you're fighting for your country. The dynamics are different. I mean, you know, me personally, I come from judo, so I've experienced that in terms of a team event. And you know, the dynamics, you know, clearly make it exciting. That the fact now you're being proud for your country and you have to represent that badge, and you go out there and you're representing your team.
And correct me if I'm wrong, because you've experienced really that in
Yeah.
another sport, and this is new to us.
Yeah.
I mean, for us, especially the MMA
For
fans.
sure.
So just want to pick your brains on that. I feel like this is going to add a lot of pressure to the coaches as well. They're going to be held responsible because I'm not blaming the coaches, but I'm just saying that every time a fighter loses, you always have a reason. He was not in shape, or he was, you know. But this time, you can't have the whole team lose. And there's something wrong with the coaching staff. So there's a little bit pressure on the coaching staff as well.
Massively, because it's tactical as well at the same time. Because obviously you've got to manage your athletes through the rounds. Do you know what I mean? So at the same time, there's pressure to make sure an athlete gets clearance for the following day. As you know, medicals and post medicals are a key aspect of the game, and you've got
the selection of the substitutes,
and you've got selection of the substitutes that come in there.
The substitutes, especially.
So the dynamics is that the coach has got to be forward thinking and has got to understand and manage those athletes to, you know, win at the highest level for the team.
For me, I think this, from a promoter's perspective, I'm expecting a lot of drama to go on there. I mean, we've never seen a coach-fighter feud usually in the MMA world. I mean, in the amateur level. But what would it be if you want to, and the coach sees a better chance of winning, if the world champion at 77 now have to go to 70, for example? If that decision had to be made, and the fighter says, no, I think I'm going to get, for me, I don't want to go and try a new weight class. But it's a coach's decision, it's a team decision, what's best for the team.
That's correct.
Well, there's going to be a lot of stories behind this. So this is something exciting, and I think, I don't know how much those kind of stories have been there in the judo world where you're coming from. So, you know, you've seen a couple of those.
Yeah, we've seen that where, you know, some athletes have gone from, you know, one weight to the next category to bolster up the team's position. Do you know? So it's strategic, and I'm excited about it because obviously it's a new dynamics in terms of MMA. It's the
Also,
first time.
if I can add, the selection of the substitutes, it's going to be a tough mission for the coaches from which category they're going to select. So they should play it strategic. For example, if they choose somebody from bantamweight and someone get injured from the weight over that, what's going to be the technique? How they going to change them? Are they going to let him play on a weight category that's higher than his current weight category? This will add more interest to the audience.
I think interest, as well as a lot of, like Kerit was saying, it's going to be a lot of loud noise after the event. So we can definitely learn from it. Because
definitely. I mean, you're only going to look at the first match. You know what I mean? You're looking at our MMAU, you know what I mean, against Ireland. I mean, that match in itself is really, you know, you could call that the semi-finals, technically. And no disrespect to the other nations, but you know, there are two good nations. They've got a lot of rivalry that's in history throughout the sport. And,
great coaching staff behind them.
Great coaching staff, you know, in terms of, I know John Kavanagh is the president of the Irish Federation, and you know, I've just texted him actually saying that, you know, I can't believe it. I had my hand in my head when that draw come out. And then you got Tajikistan, you know what I mean, in terms of young guns that are coming out, young president, you know what I mean, very vocal at the last World Championships. And I mean, you know, you guys, you know, have got a lot of pressure. This is pressure.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you're kind of like in your backyard and your favourite in that disregard in terms of where you stand, you know, in terms of Bahrain and being #1. There's a lot of pressure on there because this is a team event. And anything can happen in a team, you know what I mean? And you know, we look at football and you look up the various matchups. Only last night we had, you know, the African Cup. Do you know what I mean? And you know, you look at those matchups, and then you talk about MMA. Now we can talk in the same vein. It's a nation v nation. I mean, what an appetite for, you know, the whole MMA community to get involved with their nations, and something that, you know, I'm really reveling in just watching the outcome and the dynamics as you see this unfold.
It's fantastic. Speaking of nation versus nation, we had a question on Twitter, and it's a very interesting question to an amateur person like me that really does not understand much. Why Balkans and the Arab champions, and why not Mexico or New Zealand?
Unfortunately, is that the time when we were planning for the Super Cup, you know, we were working against the backdrop of COVID. And then working off the last 2019 ranking system, you know, we had to make key decisions on kind of hopefully making sure that we get the best for the tryout and for this new initiative. So it was unfortunate because you know, there were very different permutations that we would have had, but we felt that the Balkans was a good fit because it drew in more attention. Same with the Arab nation, you'll draw in more attention just to really get it off the ground. And then, you know, once we get all the feedback and we get all the whys and don'ts, we can go back and look about the fact that it might be just nations as opposed to, you know, wildcards with various federations that are joining. It's still a work in progress. So, you know, I'm just asking everybody to be calm.
Patient.
Be patient. You know, this is the first initiative.
Yeah.
Let's see what comes. Let's see it develop. But the main thing is about the integrity of the event.
Yes,
Do you know what I mean?
of
You know,
course.
the fact that we have a great stakeholder in terms of that. We have to make sure, just as the draw, and I remember when, you know, he was pulling, he had the ball in his hand and he put it back and mixed it. I was thinking, you couldn't have made that any better than it was in life. You know, in
that
terms
was crazy.
of, you know, the integrity of the draw and what it brings to this first Super Cup of Nation v Nation.
Amazing. It's really, really, really cool stuff to hear. Our next question will be for Mr. Shahid, also from Twitter. Will the next edition of this event take place in another country, or will it always be in Bahrain?
That's a good question to Kerry Brown, I guess. But I would say that I would always say that, you know, in the end of the day, when you look at KHK Sports and, of course, the history of His Highness Sheikh Khalid bin Hamad Al Khalifa and what he has done for the sport of mixed martial art, it's always been from the point of view as an innovator. And we always say that whether it's KHK MMA, Brave Combat Federation, it was never a promotion, it was always a vision. And you said yourself in the beginning as well, it's that vision statement is always going to be there to change the mixed martial art industry from an event business to a sports business. The second part of that vision statement is to give opportunity to athletes from around the world, regardless of race, creed, sex, color, or marketability. And that's this vision that we believe in, stuck in our minds and our hearts. And that's what we fight for every single day. It's a bigger cause that we're fighting for. So for me, if we created the Mma Super Cup thanks to the International Mixed Martial Art Federation, and I also believe that His Highness's role in developing Mixed Martial Art Federation, empowering Mixed Martial Art Federation in the 2017, 18 and 19 was a part of having a strong regulation body like IMAF, and today the only International Mixed Martial Art Federation is the only mixed martial art body that has a water signatory. And for us to be a part of that is special, and to have that kind of regulation behind you, we believe that MMA today, in the hands of IMAF and the hands of His Highness, are in good hands, in safe hands. We have a bright future for the sport. So we innovate and create the Mma Super Cup together with the IMAF. And tomorrow, if there's a country that is willing to make that bigger, want to do this Mma Super Cup, and like Kerry said, we never know. You asked the question about the wild cards. Why these two wild cards? Of course, we would have loved to have 7th and 8th position in the top 8, because that makes a lot of sense. But when we have a discussion, one of the first points we throw on the table is about sports development. What about those countries who couldn't be part of it? What about those countries that couldn't become in the top 8 because of various other reasons, financial difficulties? And that's been always in the minds of Kerry Brown and His Highness. They think about sports development, and if you do an event like this, make sure that there's a big part of sports development into that. And there's no question about the past 3 years of how much involvement the Arab nations had in combat sports, not just in MMA, but in combat sports. It's a no-brainer that in the last 2 years, at the COVID time, the saviors of mixed martial art was the Middle East and the Gulf region. So it would be a no-brainer to have them on board and give them the development opportunity for their athletes to showcase their talent at the biggest stage in amateur MMA. And I would say the same thing about the Balkan region, that we've been having a great market share as Brave Combat Federation in the European region. We've traveled more than any other mixed martial art promotion in the European continent during the COVID times. And what we've seen is the investment into mixed martial art from the Balkan region has been amazing. We've seen teams growing from there, and we've seen not just from the perspective of athletes, but we've seen judges, referees, and even television media companies coming on board in favor of mixed martial art as a sport. And we cannot forget that we need to encourage those, because these are the things that will be looked back and said that was a great decision 5 to 10 years afterwards, you know, and we know that that decision is very important. So I think that's what it is.
It's fantastic. It takes for the love of the sport to a whole new level. It's very commendable, honestly. One more question to Mr. Qamba. What makes the Super Cup so special?
Well, what can I say? First of all, before I talk about the Super Cup, I would like to congratulate His Highness Sheikh Khalid bin Hamad Al Khalifa for this historic achievement, Bahrain being #1 in the senior division in the World Championships for the first time ever. What makes the Super Cup special is, as Mr. Shahid and Mr. Kenneth Brown mentioned, the format of the game is very unique. We have been participating for the past 4 or 5 years in the Immaf events, and it was always, yes, it is country versus country, but again, it's individuals. Whoever gonna win will go to the next round, and whoever gonna lose will just be eliminated. But this time it's about the collective effort of the team. It's not about only one fighter winning, it's about the whole team winning and going to the next level. As Bahrain, we have been working very hard for the past 2 months by the lead of our head coach, Mr. Eldar Eldarov, who's doing a very amazing job with the team. We have been in a closed camp for the past 1 month, preparing not only for the World Championship. The World Championship was a rehearsal, sorry, Mr. Kenneth, to say that. It was a rehearsal for us for the Super Cup, and we still have our fighters there in the camp once we came back from the World Championship, continuing the preparation for the Super Cup. We have very strong fighters. Of course, we have the very well decorated female in amateur world, Sabrina D'Souza, the 2 times world champion. We have our #1 pound-to-pound amateur fighter in the world, Ramadan. We have Rasul Magomedov. We have Qurban Idrisov, who the 3 of them was competing against Russia in the finals, and they all won. So I believe Russia, especially this time, will be very aggressive. They will come Bahrain for revenge. I can see the final in front of my eyes, and I can see what's gonna happen if both teams, of course, reach the finals. Russia gonna seek for revenge, especially from this 3 fights. We have 2 3 female gold medalists. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be tough.
I also think, just to add to that, I think to both of the president and the president of the federation as well, this is going to be a difficult, I mean, for me, yes, entertainment-wise, Russia and Ireland was a good matchup. Tajikistan, Bahrain was a great matchup. But to think about it, if you look at the top 6 teams, it's not like MMA Super Cup has 32 countries, so you'll always get some easier countries to compete against. When you have the top 6, each one has a story to be the top #1 in the world. So we're just looking at the top 2 right now, but if you look at Kazakhstan, they've been top 3 for 3 years, if I'm not wrong.
3 years.
For the past 3 years. I'm sure they don't want to stay at the 3rd place again.
Never.
They want to be in the top 2.
And we saw very interesting performance from them in the past World Championship. In the last, they were really good. They have really good fighters. They were even their audience. What I like about Kazakhstan, everywhere they go around the world, you see their spectators coming with them, and they are always the loudest crowd in the place.
I mean, I agree. I mean, you know, it's not just about RMMU in terms of their standing. You know, yourselves as #1 as Bahrain. But when you look at the dynamics of Kazakhstan, and then you look at Tajikistan.
And you mentioned that Ireland and Tajikistan are young teams that have just started, so they have something to prove as well, to be in the top 3.
And then, you know, we've kind of left out Ukraine. Now, Ukraine are a dark horse because, you know, they're a strong federation that's got a lot of talent and depth, and you know, have been in that top 4, top 6 over the last. So as you said, each federation has a story. But guess what? You know, I mean, for MMA to have its first team event, you know, you've got to look at combat sports in general as being, you know, a key component in developing throughout the world. So if you look at judo, only just recently, where you had Maris Visa, who was successful to get the first team event for combat sports within judo at the Olympic Games. And what the dynamics there was that you had it in Japan, And Japan were in the final against France. So, you know, Japan is known in judo as the #1 country. A lot of pressure, France win. I mean, the dynamics, you could say, you know, in terms of when you get a team event, the dynamics change.
Yeah.
And I'm saying to you right here and now, the dynamics between the federations that are representing their countries for this Super Cup is going to be amazing. I can't wait to see the electric that's going to be flying around in terms of just the matchups that you get right now. And then when you get to the semi-finals, wow, you know, it's going to be amazing.
You think that adds a little more pressure to the fighters because no more about their loss anymore. Every loss of theirs, it's much more bigger than just
losing. Yes,
Just themselves as
And it's
well.
not about just losing. It's about
weight.
taking.
Yeah,
It's about
the
taking
weight
your
of-
whole country out of the competition, which is.
You know,
And
the
your
fact-
team, of course.
And the fact if you're one of the team members and you lose and you get carried through to the next round, that picks you up because now you're going to go back in again and you're going to go, what? I'm going to step up to the next level.
unless you're benched.
Of course, with the substitutes, of course.
But that might be for a reason. Do you know what I mean? So you could go into from semi-final, you choose from the next round in terms.
I've
of
heard some. I was just trying to get my head around the minds of the coaches, and I would love to have one day sit down with the coaches as well to get what their thoughts are, you know. But when we talk to the coaches, they're already starting the conversation that we're going to save someone for the finals because, you know. So there's a lot of prediction of not just about the first fight they're going to be going against, but they're always looking at who could be the potential semi-finalist or finalist. So that I'll just throw it to you.
Mathematics started now.
There's another element what we kind of left behind. The presidents who are representing the federation. You know, these presidents, and some of these are young presidents that are coming through, like yourselves. You know what I mean? You've got to stand there and you've got to hold that pressure. Of
course.
You know, just looking at the last World Championships and looking at what it means to the presidents representing their country. Do you know what I mean? That's an enormous amount of pressure in terms that you've got to take on board, and that you've got to, you know, trust your athletes, trust your coaches to represent you at the highest level. And not only that, there's a prize at the end of it. That just kind of
Big disappointment
amplifies.
if you don't get one of those. Yeah,
It's a massive, and that's why, you know, just watching that draw and just seeing the dynamics unfold. You know, you've got Ireland, RMMU. You know, you've got yourselves with Tajikistan and Ukraine and, you know, Kazakhstan. It's going to be mouth-watering, and so you know, I'm looking forward to it already. You know, I think it's going to be the dynamics are going to be really good. And as I said, I'm going to look at the presidents and how much pressure they're going to be under in holding that and watching their team in front of them.
No, definitely. And I also think, really, to talk about, we've been to Slovenia and Serbia, and these two countries. When I've been there, I've done events there. I've seen the MMA community grow in these two countries, and I really think we haven't seen them a lot in the IMF competition, but I really think that they're going to bring some super talents on board. And of course, when you have two countries together, the choices becomes much more, you know.
I think this is an advantage for them, for the Balkans and for the Arabs. They can select the best from each country.
Sure.
I mean, for some countries, maybe they have the best 5 athletes in weight divisions, but the other 4 divisions, they will be a little bit struggling on it. But with the Arabs and the Balkans, they can just select, you know?
The thing is that those countries that are representing have less pressure. Do you mean they can go full tilt in terms of the tournament because they've got nothing to lose?
Yes.
The guys who have got to lose are the ones that have got the target on the back, for sure. And
that's when you get, I think that when you draw against the Balkan regions or the Arab champions, you know, you're
that's
always...
not a given. You know what I mean? The fact that you're talking about them selecting the best athletes from around the various regions, then, you know, that could throw up another curveball in its own right because they've got nothing to lose. They're going to come there and it's going to be relaxed, a bit of fun. Do you know what I mean? But the pressure is going to be on the top 4 seeds. You know what I mean? They've got the pressure. They're the ones that have got to stand up, get it right, get the tactics right, and make sure that they get the athletes to the next round. I mean, the dynamics is there, and then, you know, when they've gone through the next round, the president's going to get round them and go, here we go.
I believe the coaches started their mathematicians calculating who's gonna play first and who gonna spare for the next round if they pass.
Definitely, and I think as the competition continues year by year, we're going to have, of course, like you mentioned, that the time span of making this event happen with the COVID situation is different. We had the World Championship in Jan, and we have a month or two to prepare for the Mma Super Cup. But I also think a lot of when that if there's more time between the World Championship and the Mma Super Cup in the years to come, you'll always see those top guys in the World Championship. I just don't know how many of those guys in the World Championship now are capable of fighting. Maybe there must have been some injuries for some of the top guys, and so this would also affect when it's short term, you know. So I think we might see some new fighters in Mma Super Cup as well, you know, some new talents coming in. But I think for Bahrain,
we have some surprises.
We're not going to miss.
For Bahrain, we will keep it for the actual week. But I'm sure we have some surprises. We will. I know.
Ramadan and Sabrina is definitely going to be there.
Of course, Ramadan and Sabrina will be there. But I'm sure I don't want to ruin it. But we will have some surprises coming. I'm sure.
As I said before,
I'm 100% sure that our head coach Eldar Eldarov now is sitting with a pen and paper and making his calculations.
The excitement's in the air here with the panel and in the room. Honestly, I'm sure everybody watching us as well is super excited to see the matches unfold and see the new players or their old favorite players come back to do them proud, I'm sure. If we can, please just move on to the next question, Mr. Kareth. There was a question for you from Twitter. It said, how is this different from the IMMAF World Championship?
It's different in the sense that the World Championship is about individual athletes competing for their country. The difference with the Super Cup is that it's team versus team.
Yeah.
And there are 9 players that are in there, male and female. And they're representing their country. So the difference is that you're now fighting for your team and your country.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Of course, we said earlier, holding the teammates on their backs and their entire country would motivate them, as well as have a little bit of pressure on the team members to excel and do better. Should be fantastic.
For sure, and there's, you know, in terms of the equipment as well, you know, they're going to be wearing their own country colours, which is different from the
no more red and blue.
World Championship was red and blue, and I think that brings a different dynamics in terms of feeling that you've got your country colours on your back. Is another,
literally.
Is another plus for the athletes that, you know, wear it with proud. You know, they'll be proud of the fact that they're representing and they're fighting in their country colours. And I think that brings the dynamics. Again, will make it exciting for the fans that are around the world. They're going to be watching this Super Cup with intent. And, you know, I wish all the federations that are involved good luck with their athletes and their coaches and the president. So, as I said, no pressure from Bahrain. It's on home ground. You know, I mean, they're the host federation that's going to be doing. And I can imagine His Highness is going to be very engrossed in terms of all aspects of Bahrain. So good luck for the Super Cup. But I said it's going to be an amazing event. Can't wait to watch.
We can't wait either. It should be amazing. The other question would be for Mr. Shahid. I think the prize money obviously is a very huge deal. How do you expect that money to help the federations and make a difference in the development of the sports on a national level?
I think the federations would answer that question better, and I'll give it to Mohammed about it. But from my perspective, I think one of the key points of what we were missing, and a lot of it's a young sport. Mixed martial art is a very young sport, and unlike football or cricket, we don't get the national federations don't get that funding from international federations or so somewhere else. You know, so the funding is limited. And this puts you in a position where, as a national federation, you wish that you have another source of funding. And if you do, there are some countries that do have those kind of funding, and very few countries that have that funding. And I'm sure that Kareth can say that there's less than you can count on your fingers how many countries are there that has.
Yeah, I mean, the difficulty is that our sport is still not recognised as a sport, and that's one of the biggest problems, is because we're still pushing for recognition. We're the only international federation that's WADA accredited in terms of signature to WADA. And our next push is to become recognised by GASIF. That's the next process. But the fact is, if we are recognised as a sport, it enables the national federations to go and get funded from National Olympic Committee or through the sports minister. So that's one of the big things. So having the Super Cup and the fact that we now have the prize money, which is one of the biggest prize money for combat sports within a team championship for MMA, those countries that are successful will have access to funding, which will help for the next generation, the development of the sport within mixed martial arts. And that's one of the key aspects, and that's one of the visions of His Highness, is that, you know, the funding there is to help the federations to grow and develop and put back into the system, and to really go on that competition pathway, you know, continentals, world championships, youth world championships, and so forth. So, you know, if you look at Africa, you know, we're going to spend a lot of time, you know, hopefully on the next Super Cup, that, you know, we'll have the inclusion of Africa and the federations that will be there. So you'll have, again, nearly every continent represented within the Super Cup.
And that's exactly what we've been, like Eric said, the vision of His Highness was definitely one of the greatest vision was how to make the sports richer. And if you look at the professional level, the Brave Combat Federation was founded in 2016 with the same vision. How can we go to each country and create a national ecosystem within the country and convert that into a global ecosystem where we can have finance into the sports. Today, if you look at the professional world, every time you go to the media, you're hearing a fighter saying, I'm not getting paid enough.
Yes.
You know, and promotions out of there, we have 7,000 promotions, out of which 6,999 of them are really suffering, if you think about it as promotions. But people forget that we're talking about promotions and fighters. We're not talking about the industry. And the industry has media, managers, gyms. They're all part of the mixed martial art industry, and everyone is suffering. And that's not to blame one person or the other, or the promotion is bad, or the fighters are bad, or someone is greedier. It's just that the system or the model of the industry has to change, and that's what we've always been preaching, that the industry's model has to change from an event business to a sports business. We truly believe that, and we think that once that model changes, you will see the private sectors, the government sectors, all funding coming into mixed martial art. And when that funding comes into mixed martial art through the sports business, it's a really big cake for everybody to have part of, you know, a piece of. So I think that's what's going to be the game changer. And like I said, Mma Super Cup is taking that one step forward at the amateur level, where we're seeing the national pride factor, where we see today that, okay, as a country, we're looking and we're saying, Mohammed Gambar, you need to bring that money back to the country, because we need to invest that back into the development, you know. So this is crucial, and we're all going to be fighting for that. I mean, not officially, of course, it's a sport, and we want to be at the top place, but also that finance adds a lot of value to the country.
Of course.
And that is what Mma Super Cup is putting that message out there. I would say that it's more than the numbers that what we're getting. They asked about how will we use this money. It's not, for us, it's about the message that it's time for MMA to feed back and bring that finance back into the country, into the industry. And this Mma Super Cup is actually doing that.
It's amazing. Actually, Mr. Makayev touched on this a little bit when I interviewed him. He said that usually in other countries you have to spend money to fight, and here you're fighting for free, and you're being paid to win, actually, which is amazing and fantastic. I'm sure all fans across the globe are just amazed by the vision and the active pursuing of your love for the sports. It's commendable. I think we will move on to our last question of today, which will be addressed to all three of you. What can we expect technically from the MMA Super Cup? These are the best of the best amateur fighters in the world and are at a level, their level must be very, very high. Is that right?
For sure. I mean, we're just coming off the back of the World Championships in Abu Dhabi, which was fantastic. The level of competition was, you know, at a very, it's one of the highest that I've seen, you know, in terms of being involved with the World Championships. So I'm expecting fireworks to this Super Cup for sure. Just looking at the draw, seeing the dynamics and seeing the matchups, it's going to be really, you know, great to see the athletes stepping up to that next level as a team championship. The fact that they're now fighting for their country, nation v nation. For me, you know, it's going to be exciting for the MMA fans just to watch the dynamics straight off the bat in terms of round one. We've got the dynamics flying and the fireworks are going to be off. So I'm excited, and you know, I'm looking forward to the MMA Super Cup.
As you said, I think the semi-finals on the first round.
Oh, amazing. I mean, you know, to look at the matchups, and as I said, you know, you just got to look at it coming off the back of the World Championships in terms of those athletes that are going to be stepping up into the arena and representing their countries, knowing the pressure that some of them are going to be under in terms of whether you're from Bahrain, whether you're from our MMAU, in fact you're Ireland, got history, you know what I mean? The fact that it's Ukraine, Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, it's off. Do you know what I mean? It's off the wall. So it's going to be an amazing event. And as I said before, I keep saying it, I'm looking forward to it. As you saw my reaction, my hand was on the head. I was like, wow.
Actually very accurate, yeah.
So, you know what? It's game on. Game on.
No, definitely. I would speak on behalf of, as a president of Brave Combat Federation and as a promoter for a professional organization, we know how many athletes from the International Mixed Martial Federation competitions we have scouted to the pro sites, and there's been so many amateur fighters that has brought their level to the highest level, competing at the highest level, so been scouted from IMAF to the pro events, some of the major organizations in the world. But today, when you look at Mma Super Cup, it just makes your job so much more easier as a promoter, because we know that's the 6 best countries in the world, and each of those countries are not bringing 50, 60 athletes, they're bringing their best 9 fighters.
Best
so
of
as a
the
promoter,
best.
if I have to find someone for Brave, that's what I'm going to be looking. And that's an advice for all the promoters that's out there. If you want to find the next big thing from any of the top 6 countries, watch Mma Super Cup, because if you don't, you're lost. They're all going to be in Brave, you know. So, that's not. And also, we're looking at, when you look at the IMF World Championship or other events in the amateur level, we also don't know how much their experience is. So we see a great talent, and we're like, he or she might need to be there for another 2 years or 3 years, because we don't know how many fights they've had. But when you look at Mma Super Cup, you cut down all the other questions, because if they weren't the best, the most experienced world champions, they wouldn't be there fighting for their country and fighting for the check for their country. You know, so that's definitely going to be the top 9 with the highest experience, with the highest everything. So for me, just job easier. Watch Mma Super Cup and just start picking. You know? Athletes, that's what I'm going to do. So yes, it's the highest level of athletes for sure.
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Go on.
I was just going to say, just for the amateur development, I mean, to have this premier event, the Mma Super Cup, you know, it really gives the level for the athletes to step up on that platform, and you know, for their careers as well as to be part of it, and to really engage that, you know, when they leave from amateur to professional, you know, they've got everything that you'd want, especially for promoters that would look at those athletes and you know, for their next journey in terms of them, you know, going into the sunset and being professional athletes. So the Super Cup is an amazing platform for them to exercise their skills at the highest level. So, you know, once again, I can only thank His Highness for, you know, his support and developing that, because the athletes, for the first time, are being looked after in terms of them being covered, with all expenses being covered up for them to compete at this highest level. And that really, you know, for the national federations, it should be an honour for them to be part of it and to represent their country and to have a great stakeholder in terms of developing the event. Us at Immaf will continue to make sure the integrity and everything is right for the event in terms of that partnership, and we'll continue to grow the pathway for the next generation. As you quite rightly, you had one of the guest who's Markiev, who's now signed up and has come through you. You've supported him through that journey as KHK, and has been part of that journey, Immaf, and now representing, you know, on a professional level at his next fight for UFC. So, you know, there's an amateur pathway, and it's not just about them. You have yourselves, there's Brave, and I think it's a great platform. But, you know, let's not take anything away. This event is going to be amazing. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm going to talk from the team's perspective. I can say that every day going to be finals. We're going to watch finals every day. Because you know, either you pass for the next level, or your whole country will be out. And we saw the levels, as you mentioned, Mr. Kareth. The levels in the World Championship last month was amazing, and especially on the finals day, we saw very, very talented athletes. And I'm sure all the countries who are going to participate here, they will bring the best of the best. They're going to bring their either gold or silver medalists. If they are silver medalists, then they will be seeking for revenge for sure, because they'll be competing for sure with the same fighters who they competed with in the World Championships. So it's going to be an achievement for each country to pass for the next round. Every next round will be an achievement until they reach the ultimate achievement. I'm sure all the countries will bring surprises. Will have surprises coming up. It's going to be unpredictable. We will have an interesting 3 days of competition for sure.
Definitely. And
I can feel the goosebumps from now.
You know what's interesting? The fact that you've got females in the team adds another dynamic.
That is really super interesting, actually.
And you know, when we talk about diversity in terms of in terms of participating, adds another dynamics, because that brings on, you know, females in the development of the sport for mixed martial arts. So for them to be part of a team, you know, they're going to be just as proud as well in terms of their inclusion. 100%. You know what I mean? And they're
beautiful.
And just coming off the back of Abu Dhabi in terms of the World Championships and watching Sabrina fight, I mean, there were goosebumps watching those matches. I mean, you know, every match was like a finals for her.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? When she fought against Michelle Montague. I mean,
that was a final before the final.
That was the final.
Yeah,
you know
that was a final.
Not taking anything away from the girl that she fought in the final, but that match there, I mean, was everybody just stood still and watched that match. You know, everything, all the other arena just froze in terms of the other fighting areas. So the fact that you got females involved in part of the team, 100%, is going to really drive the dynamics and the team bonding as well. That, you know, they're all coming together. And so the dynamics there, again, changing, you know, and representing their country in terms of nation v nation. So, as you said, you know, each team is representing at the highest level. Every match is going to be a final. For everybody.
100%.
So, you know, just watching the dynamics. I think, as you said, the MMA community has got something to watch globally that they can all buy into. That's the thing.
True. And for me, it doesn't matter. Whoever wins the competition, they just need to allow me to take a picture with the beautiful trophy. It's an amazing trophy, and I want to just take a picture with it for sure. That's also exciting me.
It's fantastic. Well, I think this is the end of the MMA Super Cup draw ceremony. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on March 8th for the beginning of the largest Brave International Combat Week. A week showcasing the largest and first ever country versus country tournament, MMA Super Cup, followed by an explosive Brave 57 with Hamza El-Koheji versus Brad Katona, competing for the bantamweight title. You can join us in the action on Brave CFTV or get your tickets at wanosetime.com. Don't miss the biggest combat sports festival in Asia, the Brave International Combat Week 2022. Thank you and good night.